Oh, hello, I've got a question for you. Do you know who this person is? This person here. So he's on the front of some very iconic posters that were used in Britain during World War One, and the posters say, "Your country needs you," and he's pointing. Now, I'm British, and I mean really only two things about him. One, he's got something to do with World War One, and two, he's got a fantastic moustache. But as well as his role in World War One, he also had roles in other places too, like Palestine, Sudan, Egypt, South Africa, India, and others. And I didn't know anything about that in school. In fact, the place I got this postcard from, the Imperial War Museum, which covers lots of wars that Britain's been in, doesn't cover any wars before World War One. So in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 things I think you need to know about this person here, whose name, by the way, is Horatio Herbert Kitchener. Now, before I tell you those 5 things that you need to know, you might need to know or want to know maybe who I am, possibly. Well, anyway, hello, I'm Suze. Thanks for coming to my channel. And in all my videos, I try and talk to you and show you some sort of hidden things, secrets really about Britain. And I also like taking you and showing you some very important places around the UK and the world. So in this video, I'm going to take you for a bit of an exploration around one of my favourite parks in London. So Mr. Harriet the cat's already gone. Let's go. Now, the park I'd like to take you to is near Westminster, where the Houses of Parliament are, and so is Big Ben, which is the big tower called Ben. Now, the first thing I think you need to know about Herbert Horatio Kitchener is he was something of an explorer. He went exploring, not round a park like we're going to, but around Palestine. So that was his first main role of an organisation called the Palestine Exploration Fund. Now, I never heard of the Palestine Exploration Fund. They are still around. They said you can go and visit them if you want to. So perhaps another time we'll visit them. But for now, if you do want to visit their website, you will see they had an event recently about Kitchener. So you'll see his face and moustache on their website. And they say he trained as a Royal Engineer, and his role in Palestine was kind of a bit like a gap year. But anyway, his main role was to do a map of Western Palestine. And they say the same map is actually in use today, that it's still Western Palestine. Is it? Well, it depends when you're watching this, I suppose. But that is the first thing I think you need to know, really, that Kitchener's first role was in Palestine in the 1870s. But probably more important than he being there was that we were, I suppose, the British, a really long time ago. But let's get back to him, and I want to show you Kitchener's statue. So it's over there, can you see it? Now, you possibly might be able to see also there's like a wall and some trees and stuff behind. That, I think, is the back garden of number 10 and 11 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives. But we're going to talk now about when Kitchener went to live in Egypt and then focus on Sudan. Now, this is when he really made a name for himself. The Kitchener Scholars Association, who are named after him, they call this name Kitchener of Khartoum. In fact, they actually sell branded merchandise of Kitchener. So there's one of their ties. It has the Kitchener K on. So there's a K there, another K there, another K. Ooh. So I'm not really sure the tie is for us, to be honest. But if you have someone in your life who loves Ks, then you can get that tie for the KKK lover in your life. But for now, let's just go and have a look at this statue, really. Let's go on a bit closer, see if we can see his moustache. You can. Now, in Sudan, he became very famous, mainly for something called the Battle of Omdurman. Hope I pronounced that right. Now, in this battle, he led a British and Egyptian force against the other side, who were mainly Sudanese, but they're known as Mahdis because their leader was called the Mahdi, so they were named after him, the Mahdis. Now, this battle has been seen as very iconic because it's seen as the first battle of modern warfare. I mean, it's seen as that, but only one side had the tools of modern warfare, machine guns, the British and Egyptian side. So about 10,000 of the Sudanese Mahdist forces died, compared to less than 50 of the British forces. Now, I don't know what you think about this battle, one side having machine guns, the other side not having machine guns. Someone who was actually there, someone you've probably heard of, called Winston Churchill. So he was actually fighting in the British-Egyptian force. And he wrote he was actually scandalised by how Kitchener carried off the Mahdi's head in a kerosene can and used it as a trophy. Now, you probably do want to check that quote and source. But it's quite sombre, that, because the Mahdi had died before this battle. So for Kitchener to carry off his head, it meant his head had to be dug up. And I think we really need to dig quite a lot more about this story and what happened in Sudan. There's a lot of a bigger context to what I've just told you. It involves the Ottoman Empire, it involves previous battles the Mahdist won. I never learned anything about this in school at all. And when I have sort of looked at British sources, they've often said that the British role in Sudan and Egypt was really just going over there to sort of chip in, help out and abolish slavery. And I think there's possibly quite a lot more to it than that really. But anyway, that is the second thing I think you need to know, that it was in Sudan that Kitchener really made a name for himself and became well known among the British public really because other British leaders had been defeated in Sudan and killed. But anyway, I'd like to sort of move away from the statues now and show you around the park, which I really, really love. Now, as you can see there's some lovely little cottage there, and people have been digging up pumpkins, which is much nicer really than digging up heads of the Mahdi. But anyway, let's try not to think about the severed head, and let's try and look at something nicer. Let's look around the really beautiful park here. Now in the park, I love this park. It's St James's Park. It's a bit like being in the countryside, I think, possibly. But anyway, you might be able to possibly see in the sort of lake there are some birds that are pelicans. I don't know if you can see them. They're quite far away actually. Now, there have been pelicans in the park since the 1660s. The Russian ambassador gave a pelican to the king as a present. And it's become something of a tradition now to offer the gift of a pelican. So there's an idea for you. There's an idea for a present for a person in your life that has everything and you don't think they want a KKK tie. Get them a pelican, maybe. Now, the names of some of the pelicans are Sun, Moon, Star and Tiffany. If you're wondering about Tiffany, well, Tiffany is named after the diamond company, Tiffany's. Now, this is because the Tiffany & Co. Charitable Foundation have actually given some money to support the sort of natural heritage of St James's Park. I'm not sure which one is Tiffany. Let's see. Tiffany. Something else called Tiffany, as well as a pelican, is the Tiffany diamond, which is one of the largest yellow diamonds in the world. Now, it was found in South Africa in 1877 and bought by Mr. Tiffany. Not Mr. Tiffany the pelican, but Mr. Tiffany, the founder of Tiffany's Diamonds. And it's to South Africa we're going to turn our attention to next. Again, sorry you can't really see the pelicans. They are there, I promise. Look, there's a sign about pelicans there. It says they're mysterious animals. But anyway, South Africa. Now, in South Africa, Britain was fighting the Boer Wars. Now, the Boers were people of Dutch, German and Huguenot kind of French descent who'd settled there mostly in the 17th century, a really long time ago. And these people were mostly farmers. Boer is the kind of Afrikaans word for farmer. The Boers didn't want to be controlled by the British, so there were the Boer Wars. And the first Boer Wars, the Boers won. So there was the second Boer War, and that the British won. Largely, people say, because of the leadership and methods of Herbert Horatio Kitchener. Now, what were those methods? Well, concentration camps. So that is the third thing I think you need to know, really. That Britain had concentration camps in the Second Boer War, which, by the way, ended in 1902. Now, I never learnt about that in school. The impression I'd always been given by growing up in Britain that our role around the world was sort of spreading civilization and giving out cucumber sandwiches. But in South Africa, we were spreading concentration camps and segregation. So as I was walking around, I did hear some noise, and I thought I'd walk towards the noise, really, to find out what was happening. And as we're walking, I'll tell you the fourth thing I think you need to know, which is about how Kitchener became the sort of poster boy for war in World War One. Now, before we do that, I will just say actually that this video is sort of about Kitchener, but hopefully you can see that it's not really about Kitchener. I'm much more interested in sort of bigger processes rather than blaming everything on one person, but understanding why things happen, really. Because although Kitchener's face and moustache led a lot of these battles and campaigns, the actual techniques used had been developed by the British in other places. So, for example, in Burma, people often have said that that's where Britain really sort of tested lots of these techniques. So, for example, one of the things that was used in the Boer Wars was punishing the family members of anyone that rebelled against the British. So if you rebelled, you would know, therefore, that your children were being starved to death. And the other thing that they did in Burma, and would later do in lots of other places like the Boer Wars, was collectively punish entire villages. So, for example, if you rebelled against British rule, you would then know that your entire village was being punished. But what was really distinct about the Boer Wars was that the first one where loads and loads of people from British society of all classes were recruited to go and fight. Because they needed all these people, because they weren't doing so well in the Boer Wars, as you know, because the first Boer War, the Boers won. So in fact, the National Army website says that 400,000 British people were recruited in the Boer Wars. and they describe this as a forerunner of the patriotic fervour that inspired volunteers during the First World War. Now, the National Army website, they put that under the heading Empire Strikes Back, which is an odd choice of heading really, isn't it? Because in Star Wars, the Empire is the evil one that you don't really want to go and fight for. But anyway, in this case, and in the next cases, it was inspiring for people to go and fight. Perhaps mainly because of Kitchener's face that was on the posters. So anyway, let's turn back to that face really and how it got to go on the posters, which, by the way, the initial poster said "Your country needs you." Then this one, which is a bit later, says Kitchener, that's him, wants you. So just wants you, doesn't need you anymore. So Kitchener's face is on the posters because after sanctioning concentration camps, he was obviously prosecuted for war crimes? No, promoted. And he became Secretary of State for War. So therefore he was the person in charge of the army and the person who was recruiting recruits. Not just from Britain, of course, but from all over the British Empire to go and fight in World War I. Now, something that I found really interesting that I read was that although Kitchener was used as the face to promote Britain and nationalism, apparently he didn't even really like British people very much. After all, he spent most of his time outside Britain, didn't he? But I read he preferred the company of Egyptians. He spoke Arabic. That's impressive, isn't it? For a British person, they're impressive. I'm impressed. And apparently he also was just quite solitary, liked hanging out by himself. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, to be honest. I read that on Wikipedia. That's the only reference from Wikipedia I've used in this video. I will put a link to all my references and sources if you do want to look at what they were. Do have a look. But I'll also just tell you what people are looking at if you're looking at the screen, because the noise I heard was actually a very iconic thing that happens every day at 4 o'clock. I'm at Horse Guards Parade, and every day at 4 o'clock there is a kind of very special inspection of the guard, which I'd like now to show you if I hadn't missed it. So it takes place at 4. I was there at about 1 minute past 4. So sorry about that. Missed it. I'm sure Kitchener would have been on time, wouldn't he? Sorry, don't go. Sorry. Now, the fifth thing I think you need to know about Kitchener is there's loads more to know about him. I don't know everything. In fact, I didn't know very much about him at all. I'd heard his name come up quite a lot in loads of books I've been reading, so that's why I made this video. But I'd also like to know what you think about this video. And what do you think about this poster, this postcard? Would you use it? I get sent it really often actually to promote events and stuff. And I don't know if you would use it. I mean, to be honest, I'm going off his moustache a bit the more I sort of know about him. It's lost its appeal a bit, really, the moustache. But anyway, would you use this to promote things? For me, it depends what you're promoting, really. And I personally made this video, and I guess I am using it and promoting it, because I think our country needs us. I want us to understand more about our history so we can understand the context of what's happening right now, today, in places like Palestine, Sudan, and other places too, where the Britons had quite a big role. So that's really why I've made this video. And I hope it was useful. Was it? Let me know what you thought of it. I also would love to know where you're watching this from. If you do want to tell me, just to put that in the comments, that'd be really nice to know. Or you can keep it private. There's a big private sign on the screen if you're looking. That's a metaphor for British history. We've kept it kind of private, some of it. Also, by the way, do go and look at the Imperial War Museum if you want to, where I got the postcard from. They have other postcards about the wars. I like this one, actually, my favourite one. It says, save bread and you save lives, serve potatoes. That would be nice, wouldn't it, if we could serve potatoes and you serve the country. Also, thanks to the people that carve those amazing pumpkins. They're amazing. And all the gardeners and people that make St James's Park look so amazing. I love it. And thank you for watching. Anyway, to end this video, I thought I would take you back to just end by picturing the statue, really. So let's go back there. It is getting quite dark. Sorry about that. And really, just in case you don't know how his life ended, you can see on the statue he died in 1916. So he died during World War I. He was on a kind of fact-finding mission to Russia when the boat he was on sunk. HMS Hampshire, that was. And he died along with 737 other British soldiers. So to summarise Kitchener, I don't want to summarise him, really. Don't think that's my role to summarise or judge him, really. He does seem to be somebody who definitely did serve our country, his country. But in serving our country, do we have to do a sort of disservice to other countries? There's a question, really. Too many questions, probably. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.